Welcome to the last day of the group stages at the Club World Cup. I don't know if we ever thought we were going to get here, but here we are. Lots of delays. Yeah, it's been good lately, actually. Weather's cooling off here a little bit. Welcome. I'm back. Leo, Daniel, been here. How's it going?
I'm fine, thanks. Oh, sorry, Daniel. I'm fine, and I hope you too.
Yes, I am. Obviously, we've been offering emotional support to Leo after the news of Lyon getting relegated.
And France losing yesterday.
Sorry?
And France losing yesterday.
Yeah.
The French children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, but Lyon is more important at the moment.
Yes. Interesting contest yesterday. The early window was a little more strategic games. One goal in those. The second window, a lot of goals, a lot of red cards. Which window you want to start with? The late one or the early one?
Should we start with the late one? Because obviously there's a lot more to it.
Look at Pedro's here already. How's it going, Pedro?
Yeah, everything is fine. I'm glad to join on time. Usually I'm in transit between tasks, but today I'm in the office, so I can show up on time.
All right.
Well, yesterday when we made our predictions, both Pedro and Leo felt that Inter would do enough to win the game, and Monterrey would, and those two would go through. I had a sneaky suspicion River might, but I was proven wrong. Group E was the finale we all wanted, right? So Inter River, it was tense in the first half. It was no one wanting to make an error, no mistakes. But in the second half, Inter really went for it, and I think they earned their win really just by being a bit braver on the ball, a bit braver with committing men forward, and Lautaro Martinez kind of emphasized that, epitomized that, didn't he?
Yeah. I think he continues to show just how strong he is, how good he is. I have in mind his two main chances, and it was absolutely class. But I have to note that 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐜𝐤's squad management has also been good since the start of this tournament. Many of the players have been involved and above all have shown themselves quite decisive. We can think about the Esposito's brothers. I think it's the bigger who played the first two matches, and the younger yesterday he scored. It's really good for Inter.
Yeah, I completely agree. Actually on Martinez, because obviously he hit the post in the 51st minute, although from a deflection, but it was his own good work that created that, right? So collecting it in the number 10 slot, not making a play to get into the box, that was fantastic. But hitting the post. He also had another chance a few minutes later, and he managed to get one-on-one with the goalkeeper, but didn't finish it. I think he should have had 3 or 4 goals in this tournament already that he hasn't scored. He has, even though he has scored, and one of them was an incredible goal. He has missed quite a few chances, but he does still get in the positions, and he does still create something out of nothing, which very few strikers are able to do.
Yeah. And we can say that with Alvarez, Argentina just have 2 of the best strikers in the world. It's quite impressive, I think.
And the fact that they have so much to their skill sets. It's not just running in behind, it's not just finishing. Yeah. They have the ability to go behind, to drop deep, to pass. The fact that it's Alvarez and Martinez, Argentina do have a wealth of riches there.
Yeah.
I'd also like to give a good shout out to 𝐊𝐤𝐜𝐤, the Inter's number 8, I think, who had a really, really good second half. He dribbled past 2 players in the 90th minute to set up Mkhitaryan, although Mkhitaryan missed that chance. But he also, I think, laid off the second goal, something like that. Yes. Yeah, so Sucic really was this driving presence from Inter's midfield, sort of like collecting the ball and dribbling forwards as opposed to passing sideways. Or like he was a penetrating midfielder.
Yeah.
The second goal was a bit disappointing. Sorry, the last thing for me on this game, because Bastoni also scored the second goal, second minute stoppage time, and you had to say Inter deserved it. 16 shots to 10. Although only 3 on target, which again highlights just they've not been clinical in this tournament. Yeah. Bastoni collecting the ball about 25 yards out, skipping past 2 players who were tackling at the same time. That was quite an image, but then his shot, well struck, but the goalkeeper really should have done better.
Sean, what did you think about this game?
Yeah, I was watching, flipping back and forth because I was trying to watch a little bit of the Monterrey match as well. But obviously the Cards changed the game a little bit there in the second half, or the first one did at least, and to the point where River Plate and players chasing Dumfries all over the pitch after the match, which is a little crazy. It's. Inter's a tough team. You kind of just didn't know how they were going to respond after the Champions League loss, and they in the first match was tough for them. But it turns out that the first match was tough because Monterrey is a pretty good team. So Monterrey becomes the second CONCACAF team to get through. So yeah, I think everyone kind of said after that first game, hey, wow, what are they going to do here? But Monterrey is a good team, so only allowed 1 goal, and that was it. That was the goal the Inter scored. But yes, 𝐊𝐤𝐤 did a very good job, playing, rotating players that, like you said, I saw Darmian and Mkhitaryan in the lineup last night, and I thought maybe it was 2016, 2017 Manchester United for a second. But they have some squad depth, and they were able to get to the point where now they're in a pretty good position here to maybe make a run in this tournament again and kind of shake off that loss. I was more impressed with Monterrey though of the late game.
Does everybody agree that it should have been a red card for Martinez Quattro? It was the 65th minute. Mkhitaryan was played through. I think it was Mkhitaryan. And Martinez Quattro was sent off for being the last man. Does everybody sort of agree with that? Is there any sort of debate on it?
To me, I agree with that.
Well, the reason I bring it up is just because Mkhitaryan, the touch he takes away from the defender, it's not towards goal, it's towards the corner flag. So even though it's the last man by a good 10 yards, he's not actually going towards goal. So therefore, I don't know, I just thought maybe that some people might think it's slightly harsh.
But just to bounce back on what Sean said about the cards and everything, I think the images we saw at the end of the match, not necessarily of 𝐊𝐤𝐤 anger, because I think it's human to be. You can be angry after a game because it was a lot of tense and everything. But the images of the fans throwing objects at Dumfries, it just doesn't pay tribute to a great club like River.
Yeah, I get your point. Although I would say that it's one thing having the aggression and the intensity in the match, and even at the end of the match, you could sort of stand in front of each other and let off steam. But to chase someone down the tunnel is not acceptable behaviour. So 𝐊𝐤𝐤 followed Dumfries, and credit to Dumfries, who didn't want to get shown another yellow card. He just left. He did a sensible thing. He just left, but he was being pursued by 𝐊𝐤𝐤, and it took basically the entire backroom staff of River and some of Inter to actually stop. And it wasn't, again, we're not talking about a big team brawl here. This is one player chasing one player. So I just think, yes, the fans throwing things, that's completely unacceptable, and River might get in trouble for that. But also, set the tone of, okay, well now the match has ended and you're going for sort of a personal vendetta. That's stoking the fire.
I don't know if you guys have seen the news here in America, but there was a player at there was a fan at a baseball game who said something to one of the players about his mom died in a car accident, and during a pitching change, he was out on the mound like crying, and his manager was consoling him, and like there's been this huge switch or discussion all of a sudden about how the fans act at these games. This guy has been named, and now he's been banned from every stadium for Major League. He's never allowed in the games. But there's been this huge discussion in the last couple of days about like fan conduct, because it's real split. People are like, these players got it. They're making millions of dollars. They got to not be solved. And then people are like, you got to have a little humanity and not be a jerk all the time. So there's actually this huge discussion going on right now around kind of like the fan behavior, throwing stuff on the field, and obviously not the players. The stuff on the field is different, but just because you pay for a ticket doesn't mean you can go there and abuse the players, and maybe something will come from that. So I just thought that was interesting.
Well, I mean, the debate
for me, yes, these sports people get paid millions and millions and millions of whatever currency. But they are still human, and mental health is still a thing, right? So if you're poking somebody for the death of a mother, that basically makes you a disgusting person. Like, that doesn't matter how much money they get paid. That will affect you unless you're a psychopath. Something in the UK, I'm not sure if it's universal, but there's a thing called tragedy chanting, which has been banned. So most famously between, say, Liverpool and Manchester United fans, again, a small minority, but some would chant about the Hillsborough disaster, where 96 Liverpool fans died. And some Liverpool fans, again, minority, were chanting about the Munich air crash in 1958, where Manchester United players and staff died. Now, that's been banned, and fans that are caught doing that are banned from stadiums and so on and so on, which I think is perfectly acceptable, because you're choosing a nasty, inhuman thing to laugh about, which is completely unacceptable, regardless of how much money someone's on.
And I actually, the fans have been amazing here. So, at this tournament. So, obviously don't want people to think like anything. I mean, they've been really, really good. So, everybody's had fun and all that. But Pedro, did you get a chance to watch that, or were you watching the other match?
Yeah. I was waiting for my opportunity to talk. Regarding the Argentinian teams, they have issues with the discipline. I know Marcos Acuna for a long time because he played in Sporting, coming from Racing, and he did the same. He did the same shit in Sporting. Okay, this kind of behavior, it's not new for me. And Sporting sold the player. It was an international Argentinian player. Sporting sold the player for the same price he bought, around 10 million, to Sevilla, to avoid this kind of situation. And now you see that we have four Brazilian teams in the next round of the tournament, and you have two good Argentinian teams who are already out. Both teams have issues with the discipline, with red card, with bad conduct. It's not new for me. They need to change the chip. This doesn't take anywhere for Acuna or any other player who put the club in that position. It's not good for the game. It's not good for the teams and for them. I totally disagree. I know it's not you. I know. I love Marc Acuna when he played for Sporting, when he was young, coming from Racing. And unfortunately, we sold the player to Seville only for disciplinary reasons. Only for that. It was not the player value. The player value is excellent. Concerning the other question, just to finish, the other question, it's the behavior of the fans in American professional leagues. There's a rule that is very clear. If a fan interferes with the game, is ejected from the stadium. just interfere. I give you one example in basketball. In a playoffs where the Denver Nuggets play on the road against Dallas, a fan sitting in the court side grabbed 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤, just hold him for a second, and two security guards came immediately and ejected the fan from the stadium. Immediately, no further action. It was needed. In the baseball, the same thing. In the baseball, sometimes the fans who are sitting in the first level, they grab the ball before the catcher try to catch the ball. They are injected. They can be suspended or banned. It's normal. A fan who is sitting in the court side or in the front lines cannot interfere in the game, cannot hold the ball, cannot grab the ball, cannot touch in the players, cannot argue with the players. If they do that, they are automatically ejected from the court or from the stadium, whatever. And this pass a very bad image. The American professional leagues doesn't want that kind of behavior to be shown in television. To be banned, I think to be banned from a stadium, it's more serious. It's not something. It's not something that I think that the club can apply this kind of punishment, if not for very serious reasons. But American doesn't play with sports. American doesn't play with professional leagues. If the rules are broken, people are punished. It's how it works in America.
Can I jump in quickly? So obviously we got a comment from Foxy saying yesterday was a normal day in Argentina, red cards galore. It made me just quickly check the Club World Cup statistics. I think that's the 10th red card of the tournament so far, despite the fact we've only had, it's just the group stage. And of the 10 red cards, 5 have been Argentinian teams. 2 for Boca, 3 for River.
And they're both out.
Yeah. But yeah, that does sort of highlight that. Yes, gosh, there have been a lot of red cards this tournament, haven't there? Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that up since someone mentioned it.
Leo, what obviously now with the second match with Monterrey winning 4-0, CONCACAF is going to have 2 representatives through, which is more than Asia and Africa combined. And Argentina, because both those teams are out. There's a chance one African team gets through today, depending on results in those games. If 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤 wins, they have a good chance to get through. But this Monterrey team, I think, was really tough. And I've watched them a little bit, and they're gonna, they're gonna play against Dortmund, and I think that's a pretty interesting game. And what did you think about that game last night?
Yeah, I agree with you. Even if I think the 3-0 half-time scoreline was a bit of a sham, because they scored 3 in the space of 10 minutes, I think, less than 10 minutes. The final result is just logical. Monterrey's strength is also the way in which none of their players shy away from putting in the effort. I looked at the statistics this morning, and I saw that 2 of the 5 players, Monterrey's players, to have won the most duels are forwards. So it says something about the mentality of the team. Moreover, I think we can talk about the goals scored in that game. Diosa's one, the first, was exceptional, but the goalkeeper, I don't know what he did, and I think Jesus Corona's one was extraordinary, maybe the goal of the tournament so far. So yeah, it was a really good game. Monterrey deserves their qualification, and Urawa unfortunately deserve to be out.
Yes, I think that the some of the Asian teams. I mean, they've games, and there's been some interesting games and entertaining games, but just haven't been at that level. This Monterrey team, I think, is Foxy. Look, listen, 100%. I was just about to say this. I think Monterrey beats Dortmund. Or they definitely maybe. It's going to be a long fight, dragged out. Could be extra time, could be penalties. This team is really good. They have quality all over the pitch. You're just looking at the aperture and closure. If you guys don't know how, if you guys don't know how these, the Mexican League MX works. They play the two halves basically, 17 and 17, but and they never did, they weren't great in those. Overall, they were pretty good, but in either season they weren't. But this team has a lot of quality, and I actually think that game against Dortmund is going to be really good. Obviously Sergio Ramos leading the way, and but they look, Cardoza and all these teams, they're a good team. I'm happy to see two CONCACAF teams get through, Inter and Monterrey, and I think it shows ahead of some of these other teams, ahead of some of these other federations. Obviously the Brazilian teams have done well as well, so it's good to see them go through, and I think both Inter Miami, PSG, and Dortmund, Monterrey will be pretty good games next game. We'll talk
you just talked about Sergio Ramos. Yesterday he was the player who has completed the most passes in the game with 103, I think, and 101 were successful. So it's important for a team like that to have a player of that, not only charisma but also leadership, experience, and everything.
It's pretty cool he went there too. I think it's pretty cool. Sometimes these players go to, MLS has been popular in sometimes South America, but it's not as popular for it to go to the Mexican League, and it's a pretty
exotic.
It's a competitive league. Once again, I mean, a lot of these matches, if you watch the matches, and I'll watch them sometimes at night on the weekends. There's not a lot of games that are blowout or whatever. I mean, they're very competitive matches, and it's pretty good to watch. On that note, I'll let you guys finish the rest of this discussion. Why I got to go back to camp for the last day, so but I'll be here tomorrow again. So
all
right, see you guys.
Have a nice day.
Great day. So actually, that's something I was about to bring up was the momentum of Monterrey. I think we were talking yesterday about the only issue we thought about Monterrey was if they could score as many goals as they needed in case the other match between River and Inter was a draw. Monterrey scored 3 times in 9 minutes, and it was such a whirlwind. Like you say, that first goal was so strange. I think it measured 37 yards, which is an enormous strike, but the keeper, as you mentioned, sort of just over dived, and actually it was a very central shot. It's quite a strange one to concede. But then only 4 minutes later, Berterame, a very clever finish from the left side of the area. And then 5 minutes after that, Corona. That was a hell of a now. If the first one was lucky, that one was not. That one was. I'd made a note though that Urawa did sort of something they never got to grips with the game was Monterrey's number 10. So I made a note for the third goal. Monterrey had it in their sort of left back slot, and 2 passes within 5 seconds, and Corona had it in the centre circle, and there were no Urawa midfielders. It was so strange, and that happened time and again. And it's as if I'm not sure if Urawa were playing a man-to-man system defensively. That's why they got dragged out of position. But it was far too easy for Monterrey, who dominated that centre, like I said, the centre part of the midfield. The number 10 just controlled the match, and not only Corona, Fimbres, who was his replacement later on. I think tactically they nailed it. They recognised the weakness in Urawa, and they used and they thought of something incredibly successful.
Yeah, it's unusual to see 2 goals being scored like it was yesterday. So it says a lot of the lack of presence in Urawa's midfield, I think.
Absolutely, but also I would argue that because of the first goal, again, the nature of it was, I would argue it was a keeper mistake as opposed to a wonder goal, because it was relatively central. It's just the keeper
Yeah.
lost the flight of the ball. But of course, that then encourages the strikers or the attackers, like, well, okay, well, clearly this is a thing, right? So maybe if that goal hasn't gone in, maybe Corona doesn't take on the shot for the third goal. But there was this great moment after that third goal in the 39th minute. The bench, it changed. It went from being sort of ecstatic and sort of inspired. And this is why I talk about momentum, right? Because in that 10-minute period after that third goal, the bench started celebrating properly, like sort of almost like relief. It was almost like they believed that was enough to go through, and it would have been, had the other game finished a draw, that would have been enough to get Monterrey away. So it's amazing, sort of amazing how they achieved it in this frenzy of 10 minutes.
Yeah, and it was well deserved in a part to win and in a second one to qualify, because I think Monterrey have shown since the start of the tournament they can compete with the best teams of it. So,
and actually, you've got to give them credit because Bertarami scored a second goal in the 7th minute of stoppage time.
yeah.
But again, it was a ball in from Monterrey's own half, and suddenly it was 5 against 3 for Monterrey. First of all, credit for them, like they're still attacking, they're still trying to get more goals to make sure that they're through. But also, how easy it was to play through. Again, highlights the number 10 thing, right? But yeah, so obviously that ended that for Internazionale won the group with 7 points. Monterrey finished second on 5. River missed out on 4, and Urawa finished without any points. Of course, now that was such an incredible finale to the group, really exciting, contradicting earlier on when we had a bit of an anticlimax in Group F. Mamelodi Sundowns 0, Fluminense 0, Borussia Dortmund 1, Ulsan 0. So only 1 goal between the 2 matches. Let's talk about Mamelodi Sundowns, because that was we felt that Dortmund were going to win relatively comfortably. Yeah. And it did play out like that. Dortmund missed chances, but they won quite dominantly. But Mamelodi Sundowns, this was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, of course. First, like Pedro said, 4 Brazilian teams took part in the competition, and all 4 of which qualified for the last 16. And they only conceded 1 defeat in the tournament. So I think in my opinion, Brazilian teams did good during this group stage. And as you said, it was a missed opportunity for Sundowns. They created, but the fact is that this game is kind of paradoxical, because Sundowns created more chances than Fluminense, but it was Fluminense that with Cano's post who created the most clear-cut chance. So I think Mamelodi were just not they were not in a good day, because they were okay, but not as we saw them against Dortmund, for example. They were, I think, less attacking, less. They attacked, but they were less incisive. It was
actually. Sorry to jump on the interview. I was a bit confused. There was a substitution in the 77th minute, and they took off Lucas Ribeiro, who is one of their best performers, top goal scorer in the South African Premier, and the second top goal scorer across all competitions. Their leading assist creator. And they substituted him with 15 minutes to go. And I found that very strange. They changed formation to a 3-4-1-2 sort of system.
Yeah.
But it confused me why they would take off one of the few players that could unlock the defense, because obviously Fluminense were very defensive for the last 20, 30 minutes. Yeah. So they took off one of the more creative players, and that really confused me. Why do you think they did that? Because of course they substituted him for another striker, so it was a 2 up top and then 1 in behind. But then
we saw that
they carried on passing the ball as opposed to playing it into the channels.
But we saw that in the first two games, for the case of Lucas Ribeiro, he did a lot of efforts. There is obviously the heat. I think he was just tired, exhausted of after everything he did. But if I can say something about Mamelodi, even if they didn't qualify, it's kind of a victory for them because today we will remember. Tomorrow we remember them. We will remember the names of some players. You've been talking about Lucas Ribeiro. We can add Marcelo Allende in the midfield, who proved really good. We can talk about the fans at the end of the games. There were celebrations with the fans. This is the very good image of football and of South African football too. Did you watch this game, Pedro?
I only watched the recap, but I'm not surprised that the Fluminense gave the possession to Mamelodi. Why? Because a draw was enough. I'm looking to the stats. In the second half, as Daniel mentioned, they had almost 70% of the possession, but didn't shoot on the target. So if you don't shoot on the target, we cannot the score, and that was the picture of the second half. They gave the possession, they defend, they were waiting for the draw, the results who fits them perfectly, and the team was enabled to shot on target, to create great opportunities, and in the 0-0 final score. But I think of course it's good for me because I'm not used to see football teams from Africa to play. I tell you why, because I follow so much competition, okay, until so late that I need to be a game watcher to make my predictions. This is a rare opportunity for me to see new players and to see what is happening in this continent. I didn't talk about this because this subject is not in our alignment so far, but maybe you know better than me, but soccer or football growing in America and Canada, it's a real blast. Not even in United States, but in Canada. Just remember, Canada was qualified for the last World Cup, and they beat the United States during the qualifying. So soccer it's growing worldwide, in the United States, in Canada, in Africa, in Asia, and it's good that we can have opportunity to see this team from so different continents to play these new players, because it's a good experience for me, because I was not used for that. The only competition that I follow in Africa, to be honest, is the African Cup. Is the African Cup, when I like to see teams like Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Cameroon, and many others to play. Sorry.
No problem.
Sorry. I'm sorry. And that's good so far. Now we are going to the playoffs, and we have opportunity to see one of these teams how to perform against big teams, against the big teams.
Yeah.
And see how can they adjust in the matches, if they want to fight for the result, if they don't only defend, if they defend and can be dangerous in fast counter attacks. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, as Leo said, Mamelodi Sundowns have certainly won fans internationally for this. But I think the last thing I'm going to say on this match is I touched on it briefly with the putting on a second striker with 50 minutes to go. When stoppage time was announced, 8 minutes remaining, that's usually a boost for the team that needs to get back into it, right, or needs to force it. But in those 8 minutes of stoppage time, they had one corner and no shots. And it infuriated me because they were still playing out from the back. They were still passing it into midfield. And Fluminense was so clever with this because they weren't just sitting back, in a low block. They were actually pressing from the front because they recognized that actually Mamelodi had more players up top now. So actually, if they went to man and sort of, they were just not hitting it long. So it really annoyed me that in 8 minutes of stoppage time, you have two strikers on the pitch and you played genuinely one long pass, and from that you win a corner. Now you don't score from the corner, fine, but in 8 minutes of stoppage time, they played one long ball to two strikers, and it's like it seemed a bit naive almost, or just I don't know. They didn't. It felt like they didn't recognize that. All right, you got 8 minutes before you are out of this tournament. Throw it forward. It doesn't matter if go for it.
You have nothing to lose.
Yeah. So strange.
Yeah.
Now the other match, as I said, it was a bit more straightforward. Won Ulsan 0, although I should point out Borussia Dortmund, as well as having 60% of possession, they had 28 shots, 11 of which were on target. I really want to give a shout out to 𝐊𝐤𝐤, the Ulsan goalkeeper, who made 4 world-class saves. The first one against, 2 of them were against 𝐊𝐤𝐤, one of which was against Gross in the 40th minute with this incredible save with his feet. There's one right at the end from Jan Couto where he had to sort of launch and almost pull the ball from behind him. Yeah, what a performance from the goalkeeper from Ulsan.
Yeah, I have to admit, I didn't really get into that match because we knew that Borussia would dominate Ulsan, and it was the case. They took 28 shots, created 25 occasions. Dortmund had 3.36 expected goals at the end of the game. So they just scored 1. And this is because, as you said, of Joe. He wasn't named man of the match. It was Svensson did, but he more than deserved it. Yeah,
actually, another stat for you, Leo, which will help. This also will back up what you're saying. Touches in the opposition box. Dortmund has 58.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Any other team in this round of matches.
And just to add a last point about that game is that Bellingham continues to show why Dortmund signed him. I can understand it. He's comfortable on the ball. He's not shy. He produces effort. He's a versatile player, and you can watch him without thinking about his brother, obviously. And one thing that shows is already important in that team. Context accepted, of course, is that when Niko Kovac substituted him, the rhythm had been less quick. It wasn't. Oh, sorry, I don't have my words, but yeah, the rhythm went down when Bellingham was substituted by Niko Kovac.
Which is interesting because, again, at the start of the tournament, we were talking about Bellingham, Joe Bellingham, about how, first of all, he's a bit more defensive than Jude, but secondly, he doesn't quite have the speed of thought. Although, again, it has to be said, he's been playing in the Championship and is a couple of years behind development of Jude, his older brother. But yeah, it seems like that's incorrect. Although context is important, they are a dominant side in a weaker group, so perhaps that allows him to come forward more. But yeah, so that Group F ends with Dortmund on 7 points, Fluminense second with 5, and Mamelodi Sundowns on 4, and Ulsan with 0. We said before that so far no Asian teams have gotten through, but also we've got 2 Asian teams there with 0 points between them. And if you consider, Auckland City managed to get 1. It's yeah, it's not looking great for Asia, but perhaps today will change for that. So the first set of matches, we've got a dead rubber in Wydad Casablanca versus 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤. Both of those teams are already eliminated, but they're playing for pride. However, obviously the big one is Juventus, currently in first place, versus Manchester City in second place, both on 6 points. Juventus are top because they scored one more goal. Yes, so Juventus, if they draw or win, Juventus will finish top of the group, and obviously Manchester City need to win to top the group. What are you looking forward, Pedro and Leo? What are you looking forward to in these games? What are you most excited about, and what do you think is going to happen?
Go on, Pedro.
Yes. For this group, as I said before, is very unbalanced. I think the fans wants to enjoy the game between Juventus and Manchester City, and I hope we can assist to over 2.5 goals, because which means it's not a boring game, and both teams wants to give a good show. And the game. It's in prime time here in Europe, and I hope we will see a really good game with goals. But to be honest with you guys, I'm looking for the group H, because there's a lot to talk about the games from Real Madrid group. So for this match, I want to enjoy the game, to see an over 2.5 goals catch, and to see the players show why they are considered one of the best players in the world who play in both teams. I don't know if there's already a lineup. If for example the Portuguese player is in the lineup to see him play. Bernardo Silva. I'm telling this because he's from my school. He's from my school. We studied in the same school.
Oh.
Yeah, but he's much younger than me. Just for curiosity, my colleague at the school, it was also an international player who played in 2000 years, was a player called 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤. A tall guy. I don't know if you remember that player, Leo. But when was the Euro Cup? I think the semi-final between the France of Zinedine Zidane. It was the player who makes the penalty with the handball in the extra time. Do you remember?
Okay.
This?
Yeah. Okay. I see. He used to play at. He played at Everton and Liverpool. I think no.
I'm not sure. He played in Benfica. He played in Benfica many years, and in the national team. I'm just telling this because Lisbon it's a small town. It's 1 million citizens, but it's small. It's a small town because everybody who is in the stream know each other. It's not like Paris or London. Here in Lisbon, we know each other. We who are the stream. No, we start. If it is not from the school or from the college, it's from the sports center or from the clubs or from the courses or from the games. Whatever, guys.
Okay.
So Leo, yes. What are you looking forward to in these games, and what do you think is going to happen?
I think it will be quite open because Manchester City and Juventus are, in my opinion, two of the best teams of the tournament so far. From what we have shown, not because of who they are. Juventus, especially because I wasn't waiting for them to play that way, to be as efficient as they were. I'm obviously super excited to see Manchester City because of all of its qualities, all of its young talents. Cherki, obviously, but also when we talked about 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤, who scored a magnificent free kick on the last game against 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤. We talk about Oscar Bob. I want to see the connection between Erling Haaland and Ryan Cherki. We saw a glimpse of that on the sixth goal last game. But yeah, there are a lot of questions and a lot of intriguing points ahead of this game.
Yeah, I think a couple of things to consider. Number one, as both teams have qualified already from this group, you could probably expect a certain amount of rotation. Certainly from Manchester City, who are trying to get more minutes into new signings and players returning from injury. Juventus, and the other thing to consider would be kickoff, because I think it's a 3 o'clock kickoff in the States. So it's still going to be hot and it's going to be slower paced. Now, to be fair, both of these teams do tend to keep the ball and do tend to have like a slower build up. So the intensity won't quite be up there. I can't help but think that this sort of thing might play into Juventus's hands, who, first of all, again, just need to draw and they'll win the group. But also, Manchester City have shown themselves vulnerable to counterattacks over in the entirety of the last season. But also, they've got new players coming in, and that takes time to build up those kind of defensive relationships and understandings. I think Manchester City could be vulnerable to counterattacks, which is what Juventus do pretty well. And I get the feeling that, I think this will be a draw. I think, Juventus's strengths are balanced with Manchester City's weaknesses. So I think it'll be a score draw, 1-1, 2-2, something like that. And of course, whoever wins the group will play the runner-up in Group H, which is the big thing. We're assuming Real Madrid will win Group H because they're currently top and they're playing Red Bull Salzburg in their final game. So you assume that Real Madrid would win. I think they're the strong favourites. So of course, Juventus, Man City, the possibility of avoiding Real Madrid in the next round. But also, if you win the group, you're in the top half of the draw for the next round, which is, as we've discussed before, the easier side of the draw. So yes, big reasons for Juventus to go all out. So I'm predicting a score draw. And as I just mentioned, going on to the fixtures for Group H, yes, the big one. First place against second place, Real Madrid against Red Bull Salzburg, both on 4 points. But 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤 currently third on 2. So very similar to the situation we had with Inter, River and Monterrey, in that if 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤 beat Pachuca, who are currently without any points, if 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤 win that, they are through to the next round. Do you think that will happen? You did with Monterrey. Do you think 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤 will do the same?
Yeah, I think I have to tell you, and Pedro, I think you will follow me, but Al Hilal and Real Madrid will be in the round of 16.
Usually I'm accurate on my predictions. That's why I'm a handicapper and not a sports commentator. I was checking the table and listen this. If Al Hilal wins and there is a draw in the Real Madrid match, will be 3 teams with 5 points, right?
Yeah.
And for the tiebreaker, the games between those teams doesn't count. There is no head-to-head. So if finish 5 points for all of them, so the tiebreaker, the next level is the goal difference. So Real Madrid have 2 goals, 2 positive goals, Salzburg 1, and Al Hilal 0, which means that Al Hilal needs to win by a margin of 2 to be guaranteed. Must win by a margin of 2, because if Al Hilal wins only by 1 goal, by 1-0, it means the goal difference is 1, and if a draw in another game, the goal difference in Salzburg will be 1. So the goal difference between Salzburg and Al Hilal will be 1, and we go to the goal scored, okay? And if it is the goal scored, it's the same. we need to go to the last tiebreaker, who is the disciplinary point. And in disciplinary points, Salzburg has 2 yellows, 2 points. 𝐊𝐤𝐿 3 yellows, 3 points. The 3 yellows they got in the end of Real Madrid match. With that confusion in the end, they got 3 yellow cards in 5 minutes. So if the game between the Real Madrid and Salzburg ends with a draw, you need to look to the tiebreaker, because all of them will have 5 points and things are very close. Real Madrid have the advantage to have goal difference better, 2 goals difference. So in this case, Real Madrid will always be qualified. Always be qualified. If Real Madrid draws the matches, is always qualified, no matter the other game results. 𝐊𝐤𝐿 needs to win by a margin of 2 to be guaranteed.
If they
And
win
of course,
by 3, they will be qualified. No matter.
no, by 2 is enough. By 2 is enough, because the difference of goals is 0. If they win by a margin of 2.
I'm going to jump in here, Pedro. Yeah, yes, absolutely. They need to win by 2. However, it doesn't guarantee them, simply because if it's, say, 1-1 between Real Madrid and Salzburg, then 𝐊𝐤𝐿 need to score 3 goals. But then of course they would have a positive goal difference anyway, so it would change. Yes, but of course that relies on Red Bull Salzburg getting a draw. Leo, already you leaked your personal opinion, which you think Real Madrid is going to win. I mean, I don't think anybody would argue against it. Is there any chance for Red Bull Salzburg in this match, considering they have been, without sounding patronising, they've been surprisingly good so far in this tournament? Yes, they drew with 𝐊𝐤𝐿, but they certainly could have scored a couple, 2 or 3 goals, and they were dominant against Pachuca. Can they cause Real Madrid problems? Or is it just a too big a jump in quality?
I will not say that Real Madrid will crush Salzburg, but I think they will win by maximum 2 goals difference between the 2 teams. We have to recall that Raúl Asensio will not be on the pitch because he's suspended after his red card.
But to follow what you're saying, something I forgot to mention on the last game was Tony Rudiger made his return from injury. So he's building himself back from injury. So he is available, although might not be able to start. So chances are it'll be 𝐊𝐢𝐜𝐤 in the middle with Dean Huijsen.
And Mbappe will not be here too because of his sickness. So it's 2 important members of this Madrid team. Whatever we can think about Asensio's level, he's now in the starting lineup. So I think Real Madrid will win this game, and 𝐊𝐤𝐿 will also win his tie, but not with. They will not crush Pachuca either, because I don't think Pachuca will let them win by 3-4 goals.
I would also point out that 𝐊𝐤𝐿 have only scored once so far in this tournament, and that was from a penalty spot against Real Madrid. So they've actually not scored from open play this whole tournament.
If I had to bet something, I would say Real Madrid will win by 1 goal on Salzburg, and 𝐊𝐤𝐿 will win on 1 goal against Monterrey too.
I would agree. My instinct says that Real Madrid will win, and then Red Bull Salzburg would have to be very, very lucky. 𝐊𝐤𝐿 do have the attacking players, but they've not quite pieced it together. But you do think that this is the opportunity to do so. With players like Mitrovic, Marcos Leonardo, 𝐿𝐊𝐤𝐤, they have the attacking potential to score goals. It's just more of a question of how sort of figure out why they haven't done so far. But then again, they have a new manager, and maybe they're all still just figuring it out. So you're going for Real Madrid and 𝐊𝐤𝐿. I have to say, I agree. Pedro, would you agree as well?
I completely agree with you guys.
Thanks, Pedro. Like yesterday.
I was just trying to shaking the wave.
You're right.
As we said, so whoever wins the group between Juventus and Manchester City will play the runner-up of Group H, which we're all saying will be 𝐊𝐤𝐤, which would mean then we'd have the complete round of 16s. And yes, it would go along with what I've been saying before about the top half seeming a lot more manageable than the bottom half. Before we go,
just Daniel. So you go with a draw between Juventus and Manchester City, if I understand correctly.
I think Manchester City will be rotating more than Juventus. I think Manchester, and also I think Manchester City will be more confident playing other teams, whereas Juventus, I think, will sense the opportunity of if we win this, easier route to the semi-final. So I think fewer rotations. Also, they don't have the squad of Manchester City because very few teams around the world do. And like I say, and I think because of the heat, the intensity will be low. I think that will suit Juventus better. So yeah, I think it'll be a draw.
Okay.
Pedro, what did you decide on that?
I'm sorry? Tell me.
Give your opinion on the result between Juventus and Manchester City, because of course whatever that result is determines who wins.
No, I told you we agree and disagree. I said I'm expecting over 2.5 goals. You are expecting a draw 0-0 or 1-1. Am I right?
1-1, 2-2.
Okay. Just to finish an opinion about this. And I was thinking about the Argentinian teams, Boca and River Plate, but this applies to many other cases. When a team comes to a tournament with only 4 teams, they play 3 games. It's very important to win the game against the direct opponent and not a draw. That's what happens with the Boca and River. I think if they didn't draw that first matches, they could easily go through because they play well. They play well. So what I have seen from the previous round is the teams they didn't qualify, they didn't win the game with the direct opponent. The first game with the direct opponent, and that making a draw and then facing supposedly the best team of the group, they can cost the qualification. That's what I think. That's what I have seen before from good teams like Boca and Plate. They didn't go through because they didn't win the game with the direct.
Sorry to jump in, Pedro. But one thing I think we're going to be doing tomorrow is having a quick roundup of not necessarily the entire group stage, but things that we've noticed from the group stage. And I think it'll be good to discuss that tomorrow, because also there are patterns with some of the teams finishing third, which again we'll talk about tomorrow. But obviously Atletico got eliminated on 6 points, which is quite rare. The fact that Mamelodi Sundowns and River both got eliminated having 4 points, which again it's sort of, we say the minimum you need to get out of the group is 4. So yeah, it's again slightly unfortunate. So yes, we can discuss that at length tomorrow. I think stuff that we've noticed from the group stage in general. But I wanted to bring up before we go, obviously the under-21 tournaments, the European under-21 tournament is still going on. The semi-finals were yesterday. Germany 2, France 0. Germany scored twice in the opening 17 minutes. They were quite strange goals. Did you two see this match? They were quite strange goals in that they were both. They both came from the defensive mistakes from the French. Yeah. They were also quite lucky because the Germans sort of had a shot. It then rebounded back to a striker who then put it in the net. So they're quite unusual goals.
If I can just say one sentence about the game, is that we understood why Germany had scored 12 goals in 4 games before facing France. They're an attacking threat, a permanent attacking threat. They got some really good players, but it's kind of they scored 3. They could have scored more, of course, but it's kind of a little miracle that they didn't get a goal against them, because France had the chances too. So, and really, really good chances. I have in mind a header from Tierno Barry, who had a lot of occasions. He almost scored there. Then he had a cross into the box. The ball passed that away from his foot. So Francis had the chances, but it was not sufficient.
Although it's always conflicting when I forget the name of their star striker who scored so many goals.
Voltemade.
But isn't he 23?
Yeah.
In an under-21 tournament.
Yeah.
So long as you are 21 or under at the start of the cycle of qualification, then you can. So you have a 23-year-old who I have to say he's tall as well. So this young man among we have Ethan Nwaneri playing for England who's 17. So that's a 6-year difference. That's significant in just physical development. I always find that quite unusual when you have players who are 23 playing in these tournaments because they're regularly playing professional football at the highest levels now. But of course, the other semi-final, England against the Netherlands, finished 2-1 to England after a brace from 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐿𝐤𝐤. I wanted to mention this first of all because of how good the second goal was, if you saw it. Collecting it sort of right of the area, 30 yards out, dribbling past one player, driving into the space, excellent finish from the edge of the box. Now, 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤 or rather, it's been rumoured that he's going to be leaving Liverpool this year because he just can't get the game time. I am shocked there's not more of a clamour for his signature because, well, I mean, he's still so young. He's clearly gifted, and he wants to move away. So I'm surprised no one wants to buy him because he's clearly got the talent.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I look forward to see what he's going to be his future because he's a player that is too strong to play for a bottom team, Premier League bottom team, but he's not that strong to play in Liverpool midfield. And I think in his position, he can't only be a substitute at his age with his talent. He needs to play a starting role.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think part of it is, first of all, he's quite diminutive. So he's I think 5'5", so he's fairly short. So he's not necessarily your classic central midfielder, nor does he have the strength for that. But he does seem to be either a number 10 or coming on off the right, that sort of player. Being a Newcastle fan, I bring this up every episode now. They're looking for a right winger, and I was just thinking, Newcastle tend to play more with a right footer on the right wing, so someone that actually goes. But I was just thinking that what an option that would be to have a left footer on the right to come inside, give you that different option. But yeah, he is too good for a lower side like that. He should be a starting player in a European competition, I think. I haven't even heard of any rumours of him going abroad because it's the sort of transfer you'd imagine. Say, for example, 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤, the Liverpool defender, is going to Bayer Leverkusen. That's the sort of transfer I thought would happen, considering Liverpool have just bought Florian Wirtz. It would make sense for me, therefore, to be a number 10 going in the other direction, right? 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 becoming the number 10 for Leverkusen. That, to me, would make sense as a transfer, but
to me,
seem to.
𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 would be the perfect fit for Dortmund at the because then is the 10 from who they can rely on, because Julian Brandt, I really like him. He's a classy player. He is a technical player, but he's not really constant. He has physical.
Reina just hasn't got the consistency.
Yeah. I think 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 to Dortmund would be the perfect fit. But I also think he's too expensive for Dortmund at the moment, because it will be 55 pound, I think, millions pound, I think.
I thought maybe Leverkusen, just because obviously they've now got 140, 150 extra million euros from Liverpool buying two of their players. Right. So, I mean, obviously that's an England Germany under-21 final. Who do you think is going to win that?
I think Germany will go through from what I've seen, because I will not say that I saw every games of Germany or of England, but
in this tournament, in the group stage.
But Germany made me the best impression.
Pedro, who do you think will win that?
I just want to say I'm sorry, Leo. I was rooting for France so much. They had slightly more possession. They have more shots, slightly more shots on target also, but they don't create great opportunities to score.
Yeah, Germany were just too
And
good.
Germany create great opportunity. I don't know how many they could make a bigger result. They had like 4, 5, 6 great opportunities to score right in front of the goal, right? So they absolutely deserve to be in the final. Was not my prediction. I was wrong, and for me they are clear favorites. Another thing is that the Netherlands surprised me, because not also in the under-21 but also in the under-19 they are in the finals. So Netherlands is doing something, because is putting the kids teams in the top of the competitions. And you know, guys, that Netherlands is known to have a good formation from the youth, a good formation school in soccer.
The classic total football from the growth days. Yes, I would say Germany are the favourites for the tournament. One thing I would point out for the England under-21 side is not only are they the defending champions, and also a lot of that team is still in this team, and they have the same manager in 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤. But in the final 2 years ago against Spain, England changed tactic, which really surprised Spain. So England then played with a false 9, but they also let Spain have the ball, and it was more concentrating on allowing Spain possession in areas that weren't so defensive, and yet but then broke strongly and ended up winning 1-0. So I would probably say I would agree that they're favourites. However, just as the experience of 2 years ago, but as well as the ability to surprise a team tactically, I think could potentially catch Germany out. Especially again considering Germany beat England earlier on in the tournament, they sort of know what won't work. So it's a nice way of nice opportunity to surprise them. Right, I guess that brings us to the end of this episode of VAR and Espresso. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you Sean, who had to leave early. Thank you Leo. Thank you Pedro. Make sure everybody watching, you go to our social media, subscribe, follow, read, consume. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow once at the end of the group stage, and we'll look forward to the round of 16.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Pedro. Thanks, Daniel.
Take care, guys. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, as Daniel said, follow us and see you tomorrow.